And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gents. This is about Casanova from Orlando, Florida, on this awesome and international podcast, Good Wine and Great Laughs. The podcast for wine lovers, ladies and gents, summer movies, reviews, and hot top discussions. I'm your host, Casanova. Welcome to Casa Casanova, ladies and gents. If you are new to my YouTube channel, what I do here every Saturday morning, I have the wine of the day, ladies and gents. I'm going to open this wine shortly. I'm going to drink. I'm going to give my report about it, what I think about this wine. And if you like my review, you can find the picture of this wine on any of my social medias. The same name of the podcast right here, ladies and gents, Good Wine and Great Laughs Podcast. You're going to see a nice picture of the wine of the day. If you like my review, you can go take the picture and go to your wine store to see if you find it. And if you drink any of the wine that I'll recommend here in this podcast, just do me a favor, come back to the page, to the YouTube channel, and make a comment and let me know what you think. All right, ladies and gents, it's wine of the day. It's summer movie reviews during the month of June and July. Now, any movie that comes to movie theaters, I'm going to watch it, I make a review. And for the rest of the year, I do hot top discussions. And hot top discussions are always topics that can affect our lives directly or indirectly. So if you like the work that I do, ladies and gents, I ask only 3 simple things. Just subscribe to my YouTube channel, ladies and gents. Click on the like button of any videos that you like, that you watch here, and send any of those videos that you watch and you like it to at least 5 people know. I appreciate your support, all right? So, today is Saturday, May 23rd, 2026, and the weather here in Orlandito will be with a sunshine and cloud mixed, highs of 92 degrees and lows of 74. Okay, so let's talk about the wine of the day. This is a red blend called 120 Red Blend from Chile. Let me see here in the front. Doesn't have the vintage. I'm not seeing anywhere in the label. Hold on. No. Just have the alcohol percent of 12.5, ladies and gents. You say right here, small print, according to the legend, 120 patriots exhausted after a long, hard battle during the fight for Chile's independence reached the lands belonging to Santa Rita. On that fateful night of 1814, these forces of liberty found refuge in the state cellars. Today, within the same cellars, award-winning 120 wines are crafted to honor the heroic character. Our 120 Reserve Special Red Blend, a selected blend of 3 grapes varieties, is deep ruby red with violet hues originating from the Carmenere grape, rich red and black fruit aromas are beautifully balanced with wood notes given by the Cabernet Sauvignon and the Cabernet Franc. On the palate, the wine is medium-bodied with soft tannins and long finish. Okay, once again, ladies and gentlemen, this wine is from Santa Rita. Is the brand right here, Santa Rita. Once again, from Chile, and alcohol percent is 12.5. So most of the wine from Chile, the Chilean wine, ladies and gents, I like. And for those that watch this channel for a while, you already heard me saying that Papi, to me, is the best Chilean wine that I have tasted so far. So let me see what Santa Rita Red Blend it is all about. Very, very dark red. Okie dokie. Santa Rita. time. Make sure this is nice and aired nicely. Okay, nice bouquet of this one right here. No impurities in this bottle. That's nice. Definitely, they say light tannins, but to me, it's not too light. This wine say here the 65% of the Cabernet Franc, 25% of Cabernet Sauvignon, and 10% of the Carmenere grapes to compose to make this wine. Ladies and gents, I will give for this wine, ladies and gents, I will give an 8. It's not like, because I have plenty of red blends, different brands, and this right here, it did not blow up my mind, but it's a decent red wine. I'll give an 8. I'm gonna be eating some shredded steak with some eggs and toast that I make here for this podcast today, and more likely it may change it now because when I start drinking and eating with the things, so make probably it's gonna be a perfect match, and then you can enjoy the wine more. But so far, I'll give an 8 for the 120 Red Blend Reserve Special from Santa Rita, ladies and gents. All right. So, ladies and gents, today is the season finale, season 12, episode 20. And for those that watched my last episode, I say that I'm going to play again another video that I played on episode 17, but was the last video. So, and as you see, season 12 episode 20 finale, and the top is a warning to everybody. Casanova, what are you talking about? Let's watch these videos together, ladies and gents, so you can understand where I'm coming from, what these videos are all about, and at the end, like I always do, I give my 2 cents, and I'd like to give credit to KASH MUSIK. This is going to be the first video, and the near-death experience. This is the video that I played before. I'm going to play one more time, so hopefully you guys wake up and see what's coming next and how serious it is, how you are living now. All right? So, enough talking. Let's start eating, drinking, because it is showtime.
(1713) on the ship Henrietta Marie.
Pay attention to the messages of these 2 videos that I'm going to play today, ladies and gents. Very important. So at the end, you can have a conversation about these 2 videos.
Chained Africans cross the Atlantic with no room to stand. Many died before land appeared. Their bodies were thrown into the ocean behind the ship. The ocean saw.
Listen to this closely.
This happened to your bloodline.
This was planned for profit.
Your ancestors still survived it.
The water remembers your ancestors' names. Millions crossed the Atlantic in chains. Many never touched land alive. You are here because they refuse to die quietly.
Yeah. From the 1500s to the 1800s, European ships crossed West Africa, Portugal, Britain, Spain, France and the Netherlands built this trade. They bought and kidnapped African people for labor in the Americas. Historians estimate that 10 to 12 million Africans survived the crossing. Millions more died before reaching shore. People were taken from Angola, Senegal, Ghana, Nigeria, and Congo. Many were marched hundreds of miles to slave ports and chains. At ports like Elmina, Castle, and Bonny, families were separated forever. The crossing became known as the Middle Passage. Ships packed human beings below deck like cargo. Some ships held more than 400 people at once. The British ship Brooks became famous for how tightly people were packed. Men, women, and children were chained together for weeks or months. Many could not sit upright. Disease spread fast in the heat below deck. Dysentery, fever, dehydration, and starvation killed thousands. Women were sexually abused by crew members during the voyage. Some captive jumped into the ocean rather than live in slavery in 1781. The crew of the slave ship zoned through more than 130 Africans into the sea for insurance money. The owners went to court demanding payment for the murdered people. Olaudah Equiana wrote about the smell, the chains, and the screaming in his 1789 book. Your ancestors lived through organized torture, created for money.
Do not look away from this history.
They counted black bodies as cargo,
But your ancestors kept fighting. The water remembers your ancestors' names. Millions crossed the Atlantic in chains. Many never touched land alive. You are here because they refused to die quietly.
yeah. The Middle Passage helped build the economies of Europe and America. Sugar plantations in the Caribbean depended on enslaved labor. Cotton plantations in the American South depended on enslaved labor. Banks, shipping companies, and insurance firms made fortunes from slavery. Cities like Liverpool and Bristol grew rich from slave voyages in the United States. Slavery expanded after the invention of the cotton gin in 1793. By 1860, nearly 4 million enslaved black people lived in America. Congress banned the importation of enslaved Africans in 1808. But slavery continued inside the country. Children were still stowed away from parents at auctions. Black families were still whipped, branded, and controlled by force. The Civil War ended legal slavery in 1865 with the 13th Amendment. With black Americans then faced black codes, lynching, segregation, and voter suppression. In 1896, Plessy v. Ferguson legalized segregation across America. Redlining in the 1900s, many black families from owning homes. Many schools still hide the full truth about the slave ship. Some people want this history forgotten because it exposes how wealth was built. But your ancestors survived oceans, chains, disease, and violence. They protected songs, names, prayers, language, and family through terror. Every black child alive today stands on the survival of those people. That survival is proof that the system did not erase your bloodline.
The ships crossed the ocean. Your ancestors survived the crossing. Never let the world erase that truth.
Carry these names with you. Teach your children what the Middle Passage was.
Do not let anybody turn this history into silence.
Your ancestors survived one of the cruelest systems ever created.
Stand tall when you remember them.
The water still remembers.
And now you do too.
From 1500 to the 1860s, 12.5 million Africans were forced on the ships. Almost 2 million died in the water before they ever touched land. This is the crossing they call the Middle Passage.
Stop. Put everything down. What I am about to tell you is the truth. It is yours, and no one can take it back. The water remembers what they tried to drown.
They built the ship to break you,
and you did not break.
2 million stayed in the sea,
and still you are here.
You are alive
because they refuse to die.
It started on the coast of West Africa, ports like Elmina and Ghana, the Bight of Benin, the Bight of Biafra. From around 1500 to 1866, 12.5 million people were captured and sold. The Portuguese began it, then the British, the French, the Dutch, the Spanish, the Royal African Company of England branded people with hot iron, even children. On a ship called the Brokes, they packed over 400 human beings below deck. People were chained side by side, lying in their own waste. No room to sit up. The crossing took 6 weeks to 3 months across the Atlantic. There was no clean water, no air, no light. Sickness in every corner. Dysentery, smallpox, and starvation killed them in the dark. About 1.8 to 2 million people died at sea on that journey. The crew threw the dead and they're still breathing over the side. Sharks followed the ships across the entire ocean. This was not an accident. This was the business. This was the plan.
Stop, put everything down. What I am about to tell you is the truth. It is yours, and no one can take it back. The water remembers what they tried to drown.
They built a ship to break you,
and you did not break.
2 million stayed in the sea,
and still you are here.
You are alive
because they refuse to die.
In 1781, on a British ship called the Zong, the crew threw like 32 living people into the ocean. They did it to claim insurance money on the people they murdered. The court in England in 1783 argued about money, not about the killing.
But your ancestors did not all go quietly. In 1839, on the ship Amistad Singh, they pie called Joseph Sinkay led a revolt and won his freedom in the United States Supreme Court in 1841.
There were over 400 recorded uprisings on slave ships. Some chose the water over the chains, and that was their last act of freedom. Every single person who survived that ocean is the reason you exist.
Your family did not begin in slavery. Your family survived long enough to reach it. The mothers, the fathers, the children who lived through that water carry life forward to you.
Their names were never written down,
but their blood
is in you right now.
That is why you breathe, that is why you stand.
That is why
you are here today.
What they try to erase in the ocean is sitting in your chest,
still beating.
You are the evidence
that they could not finish what they started. See, did not take all of us. It could not take you. You are the proof they survived.
Now you know what crossed that ocean to make you. Do not let anyone tell you it never happened. Say it to your children. Teach it out loud.
12.5 million left. 2 million never landed.
You came from the ones
who held on through the water. Carry them with you.
Never let this be erased.
My name is Robert Hill, but most folks around Savannah just call me Bobby. I'm 59 years old. a farmer by trade and by blood, and I'm sitting here today on April 14th, 2026, because I have a debt to pay to the truth. 5 days ago, on Thursday, April 9th, my heart stopped for 7 minutes and 43 seconds. The paramedics told my granddaughter Emma that I was gone. I'd been pinned under my old Massey Ferguson tractor for nearly 20 minutes before they found me. My chest was crushed and the life just leaked out of me right there in the red dirt. But while they were working on my cold body, I was standing face to face with Jesus Christ. To understand why this shook me so hard, you have to know how I was feeling right before that tractor flipped. I was out in the north pasture trying to clear some stubborn stumps. The sun was hot for April, and I was feeling every bit of my age. I was thinking about the bills, thinking about the price of diesel, and honestly, I was feeling a bit bitter about how much the world had changed since I was a boy. I liked the old ways. I liked when things were simple and everyone knew their place. I'd spent my whole life on this patch of Georgia dirt, and I thought I knew everything there was to know about what was right and what was wrong. I thought I was a good man because I worked hard and kept my nose clean. I didn't think I had a hateful bone in my body, even if I preferred to stay among my own kind. Then, the ground gave way. It happened so fast. 1 second, I was shifting gears, and the next, the world was upside down. That heavy iron frame came down right across my chest. I remember the sound of my own ribs snapping. It sounded like dry kindling breaking over a knee. I remember the smell of the spilled oil mixing with the damp earth. I tried to scream, but there was no air left in me. Everything went gray, then black. But then it didn't stay black. I felt myself rise up. It was the strangest thing, like stepping out of a heavy, wet coat on a cold day. I looked down and saw my boots sticking out from under the tractor. I saw my old dog, Buster, barking and circling the wreck. I saw Emma running across the field, her face white as a sheet, screaming for me. I wanted to tell her I was right there, that I wasn't hurting anymore, but I was being pulled away. It wasn't a scary pull. It was like the tide taking a piece of driftwood out to sea. I entered into a light that made the Georgia sun look like a candle flame. It was warm, and it felt like it was made of pure love. I moved through a space that felt like a tunnel, though it had no walls. On either side, I saw faces. I saw my wife, Sarah. She'd been gone for 3 years, and seeing her almost stopped me in my tracks. She looked young again, her eyes bright and her smile wide. She didn't say a word, but I felt her joy. I saw my mama and my daddy and my old uncles. They were all there, part of a great cloud of people, all of them glowing with a peace I'd never known on earth. But then the light got even brighter, and the crowd of people parted. That's when I saw him. He was standing there waiting for me. He wasn't some distant king on a throne. He looked like a man who knew what it was to work under the sun. His skin was deep bronze, a rich, dark olive color that was beautiful and strong. His hair was dark and curly. And his eyes, Lord, his eyes were like deep wells of living water. When he looked at me, I felt every lie I'd ever told myself just melt away. I felt the pride of being a good traditional man crumble into dust. I fell to my knees, not because he told me to, but because my soul knew its maker. Bobby, he said. His voice was more beautiful than any music I'd ever heard. It had the strength of a thunderstorm and the sweetness of a mother's lullaby. Get up, son. We have a long walk to take. He reached out and took my hand. His hand was rough, just like mine, with the marks of hard work and the scars of his sacrifice. He pulled me up, and suddenly, the beautiful light around us began to shift. We weren't just standing in heaven anymore. He was taking me on a journey through time and spirit. I am going to show you the truth of my children, Jesus said to me. The ones you looked past, the ones your people built walls against. You need to see them as I see them, Bobby. You need to understand the weight of what has been done and the strength of the spirit I put inside them. The first thing he showed me was a land I'd never seen before. It was a place of great beauty, with wide rivers and tall trees and mountains that touched the sky. I saw people, thousands of them, living in great cities and small villages. They were black, but they weren't the way I'd been taught to think of them. They were kings and queens, scholars and builders. I saw them carving intricate things out of wood and stone, studying the stars and singing songs that made the very air vibrate with joy. This is where they began, Jesus said. Long before the chains, they were mine. I walked with them in these forests. I spoke to their hearts in the quiet of the night. They knew my voice before your people ever heard of this land. I gave them a spirit of deep wisdom and a capacity for joy that was meant to bless the whole world. I watched as families sat around fires, elders teaching the young ones about honor and God. I saw a mother nursing her babe, looking down with a love so pure it made my chest ache. I saw a community that took care of its own, where no one was left behind. It was a world of dignity and grace. But then the air grew cold. A shadow began to creep across the coast. I saw ships appearing on the horizon, large wooden ships with white sails. They looked like birds of prey coming to feast. I saw men who looked like me stepping off those ships. They carried guns and chains. They didn't see the beauty I was seeing. They didn't see the wisdom or the dignity. They only saw things to be taken. They saw property. Jesus gripped my shoulder tight. Look, Bobby, look at what was done in the name of profit, and sometimes even in my name. I saw the raids. I saw the terror in the eyes of fathers as they were torn away from their wives. I saw children being snatched from their mother's arms, their tiny hands reaching out as they were dragged toward the shore. I heard the screams, a sound so sharp it felt like a knife in my heart. I saw these people, my brothers and sisters, though I'd never called them that, being herded into those ships like cattle. The vision moved inside the ship. It was a place of such darkness and filth that I wanted to vomit. Men and women were packed together so tight they couldn't even turn over. I felt the heat, the smell of sickness, and the overwhelming weight of despair. But Jesus was right there in the middle of it. I saw him crouching down in that filth, holding the hand of a young man who was dying of a fever. I saw him whispering peace to a woman who had lost her mind from the grief of losing her babies. I was in the hull of every ship, Jesus said, his voice shaking with a holy anger. Every lash of the whip I felt, every cry of the mother I heard. The enemy thought he could break the spirit I gave them by treating them as less than human. He used the greed and the pride of your ancestors to try and snuff out the light I put in them. But look, Bobby, look at what the enemy couldn't touch. He showed me a group of men chained together on the deck. They were singing. It wasn't a song I knew, but I could feel the power of it. It was a song of defiance, a song of hope that went beyond the physical world. It was a sound that reached up to heaven and shook the very foundations of the ship. They found me in the dark, Jesus said. When the world tried to tell them they were nothing, I told them they were mine. I gave them a song that the chains couldn't silence. I gave them a faith that was forged in the fire of suffering, a faith that was stronger than the iron that bound them. The vision shifted again. We were standing in the middle of a vast field of white cotton. The sun was a hammer, beating down on the backs of hundreds of people. I saw the overseers on their horses, their whips cracking like gunshots. I saw the exhaustion, the blood on the cotton bolls, and the long, weary hours of labor that never ended. I saw a woman, her back scarred from previous beatings, leaning over her row. She was humming a tune. As she moved, the person in the next row picked it up. Then another. Soon, the whole field was vibrating with a low, steady sound. It was a prayer. They were talking to God right under the noses of their masters. They were building a country that would never love them back, Jesus said. They were laying the bricks of cities they wouldn't be allowed to live in. They were planting the seeds for a harvest they wouldn't be allowed to eat. And yet they kept their eyes on me. While the men in the big houses were using my words to justify their cruelty, these people were living my words in the dirt. He showed me a secret meeting in the woods at night. They called them brush arbors. I saw people slipping away from their cabins, moving through the swamps and the shadows to gather under the trees. They didn't have a church building with a steeple. They didn't have fancy robes or a choir. They had a stump for a pulpit and the moon for a light. I watched a man, tall and thin, with hands that were calloused and cracked, stand up and speak. He didn't read from a book because he wasn't allowed to learn how to read, but he spoke the truth from his soul. He talked about Moses and the Red Sea. He talked about Jesus and the cross. He talked about a day when every chain would be broken and every tear wiped away. This is the real church, Jesus whispered. This is where the flame stayed alive. While the white churches were preaching about order and submission, these people were preaching about freedom and love. They understood the heart of my gospel better than the ones who own the Bibles. They knew that I am the God who sets the captives free. I saw a young woman kneeling in the dirt during one of those meetings. She was praying for the man who had whipped her that morning. She wasn't praying for his destruction. She was praying for his soul. She was asking God to open his eyes so he wouldn't have to face the judgment of his own cruelty. I couldn't breathe. Lord, how could she do that? How could she love someone who treated her like an animal? Jesus looked at me with a look that was both sad and proud. That is the spirit I gave them, Bobby. That is the resilience of a soul that knows it belongs to me. The enemy tried to use hate to destroy them, but they used love to defeat him. They carried the cross in a way your people never had to. They followed me into the furnace, and they came out smelling like heaven. The vision shifted again, moving through time. I saw the end of the Great War between the states. I saw the joy of the day the news of freedom came. I saw families searching for one another, walking hundreds of miles just to find a brother or a sister who had been sold away years before. I saw them building their own schools and their own churches with nothing but their bare hands and a few scraps of lumber. But then I saw the shadow return. It wasn't chains this time, it was laws. It was signs that said white only. It was a system designed to keep them at the bottom, to make sure they never forgot their place. I saw the night riders in their white hoods bringing fire and death to families who were just trying to live in peace. I saw a black man being dragged from his home in the middle of the night. I saw the tree and the rope. I saw the crowd of white people, some of them I recognized from my own family's stories, standing there watching, some of them even smiling. I saw a cross being burned in the yard of a black church. "Do you see this, Bobby?" Jesus asked, his voice heavy with grief. This was done by people who called me Lord. They used my cross, the symbol of my love and sacrifice, to spread terror and hate. They thought they were protecting their way of life, but they were only serving the father of lies. I saw a mother sitting on her porch holding a telegram. Her son had died fighting for this country in a war overseas, but when he came home in a box, he couldn't even be buried in the same cemetery as the white soldiers. I saw the quiet, steady pain in her eyes. It wasn't anger. It was a deep, weary sorrow that had been passed down through generations. They gave their lives for a country that didn't want them, Jesus said. They worked the land, they fought the wars, they built the wealth, and they were met with a closed door at every turn. And still, they came to my house on Sunday. Still, they sang my praises. Still, they believed that justice would roll down like waters. He showed me a vision of a crowded bus. I saw a woman, tired from a long day of cleaning other people's houses, refusing to give up her seat. I saw the strength in her jaw and the peace in her eyes. It wasn't a small thing she was doing. It was a giant leap of faith. She was standing up for the dignity I had given her, even if the world said she didn't have any. I was sitting on that bus with her, Jesus said. I was in the jail cells with the ones who marched. I was on the bridges where the dogs and the hoses were turned on my children. Every time they were knocked down, I was the one who helped them up. Every time they were spat upon, I was the one who wiped their brow. I saw the marches, thousands of people walking together, arm in arm. I saw the faces of young black men and women filled with a holy fire. They weren't fighting with guns or knives, they were fighting with their feet and their voices. They were demanding that the world see them as I was seeing them now, as beautiful, equal children of the Most High God. I saw a man standing on the steps of a great monument, speaking to a sea of people. His voice rang out like a bell, calling for a day when the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners could sit down together at the table of brotherhood. He was speaking my heart, Jesus said. He was calling the church to be what I intended it to be. But many of my people turned a deaf ear. They chose their traditions over my truth. They chose their comfort over my justice. The vision didn't stop at the marches. Jesus led me further, and the air around us seemed to pulse with a different kind of tension. We were moving into the years I lived through, the years I remembered with my own eyes. But seeing them through his eyes was like looking at a familiar field and suddenly seeing all the snakes hiding in the grass. We stood in the middle of a neighborhood that looked just like the ones I used to drive past on my way into town. It was a nice, quiet street with green lawns and white houses. I saw a black family, a man, a woman, and 2 little girls standing in front of one of those houses. They were dressed in their Sunday best, looking hopeful, talking to a man in a suit who was holding a clipboard. "Watch their hearts, Bobby," Jesus whispered. I saw the hope in the father's chest. He'd worked 2 jobs for years, saving every penny so his girls could have a yard to play in. He wanted them to go to the better school across the tracks. But as I watched, the man with the clipboard shook his head. He didn't yell. He didn't use any ugly words. He was polite, just like I'd always been. He made excuses about paperwork and fitting in with the community. As the family walked away, their shoulders slumped. I saw a dark, oily shadow hovering over the man with the clipboard. It wasn't a monster from a movie. It was a spirit of exclusion, a cold thing that whispered, "Keep it for yourselves. Don't let the others in." "This is the fence you didn't see," Jesus said. "The chains were gone, but the hearts of your people were still locked. You built walls of money and laws to keep my children from the abundance I provided for everyone. You thought as long as you weren't hitting them or calling them names, you were doing no wrong. But to deny a man a home for his children because of the skin I gave him is a stench in my nostrils." I felt a cold sweat break out on my spirit. I remembered talking with my neighbors back in the day about property values and neighborhood character. We thought we were just being smart businessmen. I never realized we were being soldiers for the enemy. Then, Jesus took me to a church. It was a big, beautiful building with a tall steeple and stained glass. I recognized it. It was a church not far from my farm. The pews were full of people who looked just like me. They were singing hymns about the love of God, and the preacher was talking about being a good neighbor. But then the doors at the back opened. A young black couple walked in. They looked nervous, clutching their Bibles. The singing didn't stop, but the air in the room changed. It got thick and heavy. I saw the people in the pews shifting, looking at each other out of the corners of their eyes. No one stood up to welcome them. No one offered them a seat. The polite silence was louder than a shout. I saw the young couple stand there for a minute, then quietly turn around and walk back out. I saw the hurt on their faces, a deep sting that went right to the soul. Jesus turned to me, and his eyes were like fire. They came to my house to find me, and they found a wall built by my own servants. How can you say you love me, whom you have not seen, when you cannot love your brother who is standing right in front of you? Every time a door is closed in my name, I am the one locked outside. He showed me the spiritual side of that church service. While the people were singing, I saw dark figures sitting among them. These things looked like shadows with no faces, and they were leaning in, whispering into the ears of the congregation. They were saying things like, they have their own place to go. They'll be more comfortable with their own kind. Don't let things get complicated. The enemy doesn't need you to be a monster, Bobby, Jesus said. He only needs you to be indifferent. He only needs you to believe the lie that separate is how I intended it. He uses your comfort to keep you from your calling. The vision shifted again, and suddenly we were in a small, cramped apartment in the city. It was dark, and the walls were thin. I saw an elderly black woman kneeling by her bed. Her joints were swollen with age, and her room was cold, but her face was shining. She was praying. I listened to her words. She wasn't praying for more money or a better house. She was praying for the children in her neighborhood, asking God to keep them safe from the traps the world had set for them. And then she started praying for me. My heart skipped. Lord, she doesn't know me. Why is she praying for me? She knows your spirit, Jesus said. She knows the spirit that has kept her people down, and she is asking me to break the scales off your eyes. She has been praying for the hill farm for 30 years, Bobby. She passes it on the bus when she goes to work, and she asks me to bring the light of truth to that house. I saw the light coming off her as she prayed. It was a gold and purple fire that rose up through the ceiling and reached toward heaven. It was stronger than the walls of the church I'd just seen. It was a power that the world couldn't understand. This is the spiritual inheritance of my black children, Jesus said. Because the world gave them nothing, they clung to me. They have a depth of prayer that moves mountains. They have a wisdom that only comes from walking through the valley of the shadow. You have looked down on them, thinking they were beneath you. But in my kingdom, this woman is a general. She has done more for my kingdom with her prayers than you have done with all your good living. Jesus then showed me a vision of the land itself, the Georgia dirt I loved so much. I saw the soil turning transparent, and I could see deep into the earth. I saw the tears and the blood that had soaked into the ground for hundreds of years. I saw the places where men had been killed for wanting to vote. I saw the places where families had been broken. The land remembers, Jesus said. The blood of my children cries out from the ground, just like Abel's did. You cannot have a harvest of peace when the seeds you planted were injustice. The reason your churches are dry, the reason your families are breaking, is because you have an unconfessed sin sitting in the middle of your house. You have treated my beloved ones as strangers, and so you have become strangers to my spirit. I fell to the ground, the weight of it all pressing down on me. I thought of every time I'd laughed at a joke that wasn't funny. I thought of every time I'd seen a wrong and looked the other way because I didn't want to cause trouble. I saw my life as a long string of missed opportunities to be a brother. Lord, what do? I cried out. It's too much. The history is too long. The hurt is too deep. How can I fix what took hundreds of years to break? Jesus knelt down beside me. He didn't look angry anymore. He looked like a father whose heart was breaking for his son. You cannot fix it alone, Bobby, but you can stop lying about it. You can stop pretending that the past is over when the wounds are still bleeding. You can start by seeing, really seeing. He raised his hand, and I saw a vision of what the world could look like. I saw a church where the pews were a sea of different colors. It wasn't just polite sitting together, they were leaning on each other. I saw a white man holding the hand of a black man as they prayed. I saw a black woman teaching a white child about the goodness of God. I saw a community where the invisible fences had been torn down and replaced with bridges. When my children come together in truth, the enemy flees, Jesus said. The power that was forged in the black church, the resilience, the song, the deep faith, it is meant to be shared. And the resources and the stability you have, they are meant to be a floor for everyone to stand on. Together, you are my body. Divided, you are just bones in the desert. He showed me a vision of a table. It was the longest table I'd ever seen, stretching out toward the horizon. People were sitting everywhere, laughing and eating and sharing stories. There was no head of the table. There was no special section. This is the feast I have prepared, Jesus said. But many of my people are missing from the table because they are still arguing about who belongs in the room. They are still listening to the whispers of the faceless shadows. I saw a black man at the table, his face glowing. He looked at me and smiled, and I realized it was the same man I'd seen in the chains on the ship. He wasn't a slave anymore. He wasn't a statistic. He was a brother. The enemy's greatest fear, Bobby, is a church that actually loves, Jesus said. He has spent centuries making you afraid of each other. He told you that if they rise, you must fall. He told them that you would never change. He is a liar. In my kingdom, when one is lifted, everyone is lifted. There is no lack in my house. The vision began to change again, getting more intense. I felt like I was being pulled through a whirlwind of faces and voices. I saw the faces of black children today. Children in the schools near my farm. I saw the genius in their eyes, the dreams they had of being doctors and poets and farmers. But I also saw the walls the world was already building around them. I saw the way people looked at them with suspicion before they'd even said a word. These are my little ones, Jesus said, his voice sounding like thunder. Whatever you do to the least of these, you do to me. When you vote for things that hurt them, you hurt me. When you stay silent while they are judged by the color of their skin, you are judging me. There is no middle ground, Bobby. You are either a builder of bridges or a builder of walls. I saw a young black man being pulled over by the side of the road. I felt his heart racing, not because he'd done something wrong, but because of a fear that had been handed down to him by his father and his grandfather. I felt the weight of that fear, a heavy, cold coat he had to wear every time he left his house. Do you feel that, Bobby? Jesus asked. That is the fear your people created. That is the burden my children carry every single day. You have lived your whole life in the sun, never knowing the shadow they walk in. You cannot love them if you refuse to acknowledge the shadow. I wept for that young man. I wept for the fear I'd never had to feel. I realized that my comfort was a luxury bought with someone else's pain. The time for being polite is over, Jesus said. The world is shaking, and my church must be a place of solid rock. But you cannot build on rock when your foundation is full of the rot of prejudice. You must dig it out. You must repent, not just with your words, but with your life. I saw a vision of my own farm again. I saw myself standing in the field with a black neighbor I'd known for years but never really talked to. In the vision, I walked over to him, and I didn't just wave. I sat down with him. I asked him to tell me his story. I listened until I felt his pain. I listened until I saw his glory. That, Jesus said, pointing to the vision, that is where the healing begins. It begins with a heart that is willing to be broken. Jesus didn't let go of my hand. He led me through the decades like we were walking through a thick fog that only he could clear. We stood on a dusty road in Georgia, not far from where my granddaddy's land used to be. The year felt like it was just after the Great War between the states, during that time they call Reconstruction. I saw a group of black men and women, folks with names like James, Otis, and Mary, standing in a circle on a patch of dirt they were trying to call their own. They were free, and for a moment, the air felt light. They were dreaming of building homes, planting crops for their own tables, and finally learning to read the Word of God for themselves. Look at the shadows at the edge of the woods, Bobby, Jesus said. I looked and I saw something that made my skin crawl. It wasn't just men hiding in the trees. It was those faceless shadows again. They were weaving a net out of cold, gray smoke. I watched as white men I recognized, men who held positions of power in town, men who sat in the front pews of the big churches, met in secret. They were angry that the order of things had been shaken. I saw them writing down new laws, things they called black codes. Look at the ink, Jesus whispered. As they wrote, the ink on those papers began to move like tiny black snakes. As the laws were passed, those snakes slithered across the floor and wrapped themselves around the ankles of James and Mary. They weren't iron chains anymore, but they did the same job. These laws said a man could be arrested for not having a job, and then he'd be sold back to a plantation to work off his fine. They said a man couldn't own a gun to protect his house. They said his children couldn't go to the same schools. This was the second slavery, Jesus told me, his voice vibrating with a sorrow that shook my very soul. It was a slavery of the mind and the law. And the tragedy, Bobby, is that the men writing those laws went to church the next morning and prayed for my blessing. They used my name as a seal for their cruelty.
That part.
They told their children that this was nature's way. But there is nothing natural about hate. There is nothing traditional about denying a man his soul. I saw the spiritual weight of those years. I saw the Jim Crow era being born, not just in law books, but in the hearts of mothers and fathers who taught their children to look away when they saw a black person. I saw the politeness of the South becoming a cage. I saw my own ancestors, men with the name Hill, shaking hands with these lawmakers, nodding their heads and saying, yes, this is how it should be. Then the vision shifted. We were standing in a train station in 1945. The air was thick with the smell of coal smoke and the sound of whistles. I saw a young man named Clarence. He was wearing a soldier's uniform, fresh back from the big war in Europe. He had medals on his chest for bravery. He looked so proud, standing tall, thinking he had proven his worth to his country. I followed him as he walked into a bank in a town just like Savannah. He wanted a loan to start a little farm of his own, just like the white soldiers were getting through the government programs. I saw the banker, a man who looked like he could have been my own uncle, lean back in his chair. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't use a slur. He just tapped his pen on the desk and said, "We don't do those kinds of loans for people in your part of town, Clarence. Maybe try the factory down by the docks." I felt Clarence's heart shatter. It wasn't just disappointment. It was the realization that his blood on the battlefields of Europe didn't buy him a seat at the table in Georgia. The pride in his uniform turned into a weight that nearly bent him double. As he walked out, I saw one of those faceless shadows hop onto his shoulders, whispering, "You will never be enough. No matter what you do, you are just a color to them." Jesus reached out and touched the ghost of that young soldier. He fought for a freedom he wasn't allowed to have at home. I was with him in the trenches, and I was with him in that bank. Every time his dignity was trampled, my heart was trampled. You were taught that these men just didn't work as hard, Bobby. But I am showing you the boots that were held on their necks. I am showing you the invisible hands that pushed them back every time they tried to climb. The vision moved through the 1950s and 60s. I saw the Great Migration. I saw thousands of families packing their meager belongings into old cars and heading north. They were fleeing the fire and the rope of the South, hoping for a promised land. But Jesus led me to the streets of Chicago and Detroit, and I saw the same faceless shadows waiting for them there. I saw the red lines being drawn around neighborhoods. I saw the white families fleeing to the suburbs as soon as one black family moved in. I saw the schools in the city being drained of money and resources. I saw the tenement buildings where the heat didn't work and the rats ran free, while the landlords, men who called themselves Christians, collected the rent from their big houses in the country. The enemy changed his tactics, but his goal stayed the same, Jesus said. He wanted to keep my children isolated. He wanted to make sure they felt the sting of being other, no matter where they went. And he used the silence of good men to make it happen. He used the fear of those people to keep the walls high. While you were enjoying the growth of your farm and the safety of your world, your brothers were being boxed into traps they couldn't escape. He showed me the 1980s and 90s. I saw the war on drugs through a spiritual lens. I saw young black men being swept up and put into cages for things that white men in the suburbs were doing without a second thought. I saw the families being ripped apart again, just like in the days of the slave ships. I saw the mothers crying in the courtrooms, and I saw the judges, men I might have voted for, handing down sentences that felt like death warrants. The chains returned, Jesus said, his eyes flashing with fire. They called it justice, but it was a harvest of souls for the enemy. Every time a father is taken from his home for a mistake that a white man gets a second chance for, the enemy wins. Every time a neighborhood is flooded with poison while the world turns a blind eye, the enemy wins. And the church stayed silent. The church said, well, they shouldn't have broken the law, but they didn't ask why the law was a jagged edge only for them. I felt the sickness of it all in my gut. I thought of all the times I'd sat at my kitchen table and complained about crime in those neighborhoods, never once asking how they got that way. I never once asked what Jesus thought about the cages we were building. Lord, stop, I cried. I can't see anymore. It's too much. The weight of it is crushing me worse than that tractor ever did. Jesus gripped my hand tighter. You must see, Bobby, because the enemy is still at work. Look at the modern day. Suddenly, the visions became fast and sharp. I saw the world today in 2026. I saw the news screens and the phones. I saw the faceless shadows again, but now they were working through the screens. They were weaving webs of anger and division. They were telling white folks to be afraid that they were losing their country. They were telling black folks that nothing would ever change. I saw the spiritual battle over the hearts of the young. I saw a young black girl, maybe 12 years old, sitting in a classroom. She was brilliant, her spirit glowing like a diamond. But I saw the shadow of low expectations hovering over her teacher. I saw the way the world was already trying to dim her light, telling her she didn't belong in the high-level classes, telling her she was loud when she was just being herself. This is the battle today, Jesus said. It is a battle of the spirit. The enemy knows that if this girl and a girl who looks like Emma ever truly became friends, if they ever truly saw each other as sisters, they would change the world. So he works every day to keep them apart. He uses your politics, your pride, and your traditions to make sure they never sit at the same table. Then Jesus showed me something that changed the whole atmosphere. The dark history and the heavy visions faded, and we were standing back in that light, the real heaven. But this time, I saw the great cloud of witnesses. I saw Harriet and Frederick. I saw Martin and Malcolm, but I also saw the nobodies. I saw an old woman named Dorothy who had spent her whole life cleaning houses in Savannah and praying for her enemies until her knees were calloused. I saw a man named William who had been lynched in 1920, now standing in a robe of pure light, not his face shining with a joy that made the sun look dim, and they were all together. There were white saints there too, the ones who had finally let go of their pride and chosen to follow the real Jesus. They were embracing. They were singing a song that had no words but meant everything. It was a song of one. This is the only reality that lasts, Jesus said. Everything else is a lie from the pit. The enemy attacked my black children for centuries because he knew they carried the key to the heart of my gospel. They know what it means to love when you are hated. They know what it means to hope when there is no reason. The rest of the church has become fat and lazy on the world's comforts, but my black children have been forged in the fire. You need them, Bobby. You need their fire. You need their song. You need their resilience. He looked me in the eye, and for a second I felt like I was being burned and washed at the same time. The time of polite racism is over. The time of staying in your lane is over. I am calling my church to be a house of prayer for all nations. If you want to see my glory in your land again, you must walk across the road. You must sit at the table of the ones you ignored. You must repent for the silence of your fathers and the pride of your own heart. Then he showed me a vision of my own hospital room just a few days ago. I saw myself lying there, gray and cold. I saw the doctors walking away, but I saw a black nurse named Patricia. She didn't give up. While the machines were flatlining, she put her hand on my cold shoulder and whispered, "Lord, bring him back. Give this man one more chance to see the light." I started heaving with sobs. She prayed for me. While I was dead, she was fighting for me. "She is your sister, Bobby," Jesus said. "She saw a soul in trouble, and she didn't care about the color of the skin or the history of the land. She practiced the love I taught. Go back and be like her." The light began to pull me back down. I felt the weight of my body, the pain in my ribs, and the smell of the hospital room. I felt the cold shadow in the corner of the room, that hateful thing that didn't want me to wake up. It lunged at me, whispering, "Stay dead. Don't tell them. They'll hate you for this. They'll call you a traitor." But I remembered the fire in Patricia's prayer. I remembered the bronze skin of my Savior. I pushed through the dark and opened my eyes. The first thing I saw was Patricia's face. She was checking a monitor, and when she saw my eyes open, she gasped. "Praise God," she whispered. "He heard me." I couldn't speak then, but I reached out and squeezed her hand. I saw the confusion in her eyes, but I also saw the love. I knew then that my life was no longer mine. It belongs to the truth that Jesus showed me. Since I've been home, the battle hasn't stopped. Like I said, the enemy is trying to shut me up. My computer shuts down when I try to write this. My phone glitches. I've had people from my own church call and tell me I should rest and stop talking about race. They say I'm being divisive. But I'm not being divisive. I'm calling for the only unity that matters. I'm calling for the family of God to finally be a family. I spent 59 years being a good man in a world built on a lie. I'm not going to spend another day in the dark. Jesus showed me that the history of this land is a heavy thing, but his grace is heavier. He showed me that the black church is a treasure house of faith that the world has tried to rob, and it's time we stood together to protect it and learn from it.
And ladies and gents, once again, I'd like to give credit to KASH Music, the first video that we watched, and also the second one, the YouTube channel, Near Death Experience, ladies and gents. So, let me ask, Casanova, what does that have to do with anything that's going on? Why you say that this is a warning to everybody, ladies and gents? First of all, you need to pay attention to what's going on in the country right now after what the Supreme has done related to the voting rights, that all of a sudden, all these red states, the first priority they have is to make sure that they eliminate the representation of all black people. They are not concerned about the cost of living. They are not concerned about the rural hospitals that are being closed, the high cost of light bills that's going on right now, the high cost of food, the high cost of gas. None of that. High cost of living, none of that. The first thing that they did is make sure they can raise all the votes, all the political representation of black people, ladies and gents. So that's why it's important. That's why you pay attention to what's going on. And for all black people, they forgot about your history, the history of your ancestors. That's why I played this video for you to have a wake-up call and to see where your ancestors were, to make sure where you are right now. You are the product of their resilience and their survival. So now you are able to exist nowadays, ladies and gents. And then come back, and there's a warning to all minorities too, because you think for all these weak people that vote for Trump and they still support the Republican Party, that's a warning for you to see what's going on right now. And always this, the first people that are going to be targeted is black people. And if you be quiet, if you not get involved, if you not register, if you not participate and focus on what's going on and search for the candidates that are going to fight for your rights. Because now I was on you can Google Indisputable YouTube channel with Dr. Richie, I forgot his last name, Richie something. That was one of the politicians from the Republican Party that said you already get rid of the voting rights. Now the next thing you're gonna do is focus on the 14th Amendment, because this man and some of the Republicans, the white supremacy part of the MAGA party, wants to you back in chains. They want to back the black people be enslaved again. So if they come from black people right now, ladies and gents, in the minority, Asians, black, women, all that, you're next. Trust, believe me, if you do not stand up and pay attention and you wake up, that's why when the words say we are woke, they hate being woke. What's being woke? Because it means you alert. One thing I learned in the army, and I tell my kids all the time, if you stay alert, you stay alive. And every time that the MAGA, DeSantis, and all these dumbass Republicans say, oh, you're against the woke, because they want you to be less uneducated, less information about anything about the schools are failing here in Florida. Don't believe me? Do a search, ladies and gents. Do a search and compare, see what's going on in education in red states. They are the worst on everything. Worse in public health, worse in housing, the worse in the roads, worse in hospital. Everything that's bad for society, now that's what they're doing in red states. And now there's another thing that's going on too. I watched a video this week from Business Insider that I may make once I come back in August. I may focus on that. Is that all these AI centers that are being built, a lot of them, they are taking a lot of water from the people that live there, and also because the cost of the computers being run in 24/7, the cost of electricity is sky high. And while they're doing this, the electric companies are passing these to other people. For you and I, look at what's going on in West Virginia, Indianapolis, and all many other states, that the cost of electricity is very, very, very high. Now, I bought something in my house right here. I'm not going to tell you. You need to Google. But I told some of my friends and co-workers, because I'm used to keep my light bill very, very, very low. And it is very, very, very low compared to the average Joe out there. You know what I'm saying, ladies and gents? So, this video, the first video that I play, is to all black people that need to wake up and need to understand that MAGA, the Trump, and all these Republicans don't care about you. You are just a token for them to get your vote, to use you as a prop, but they may pay you some money, just like, you know, there's some group called Black for Trump that is since 2016, a group of black people that is there for Trump because they get paid. They are only focused on themselves. And the video that I played to you, there's two videos is to make sure that you need to think outside the box. And I'm saying this one more time, and I'm going to say it again. Always, as long as I live. Ladies and gents, there's nothing new under the sun. The life is the same for generations. We born, you live, you're going to die, and once come death, it's going to come accountability. And the testimony of Mr. Robert Hill in Savannah, Georgia, that was the second video that we saw. One thing that he said at the end of his testimony, say, the bronze skin of my Savior. Now, I want you to meditate on that. Now, you may ask, oh, Casanova, the man was now crushed for 7 minutes, rushed to the hospital. I don't believe it. That's your news. That's your problem. I'm sharing knowledge for you to wake up, because now is the time for you to wake up and be woke and pay attention on how you're doing. This video, the second video that I watched, the testimony of Mr. Robert Hill, I already have some prayer concept about myself as a black man, but this video really woke me up even more, because one thing that I have done for a long time, I strive to excellence on everything that I do, and my job, and how I relate to other people. Now, you're going to face, this is life. Sometimes you're going to encounter some people that are going to test you. You know, and these people that come and test me, they think they're going to talk to me or treat me any kind of way. I check their asses right away. But one thing that I do, especially watching this video of Mr. Robert Hill testimony, I make sure that whoever I encounter, if I go to the supermarket, gas station, whatever other human beings that I interact with, I treat them with respect. Because I understand how God and Jesus see every human being. And I understand how he see me as a black man, and how he really cares about us, black people. And I'm not saying that we're better than anybody. But as his testimony, black people went through hell more than any other group of humans on this earth. And the reason that I say that is because I believe that's because God has a purpose, a very important purpose for black people, because you were the first humans on this earth. In the African continent, that the original name is Alkebulan. That's, I have my shirt in one of my episodes. And for those that don't know what that means, Alkebulan means the mother of mankind. And so you can ask Casanova, so how now they changed the name for Africa? Why they call the continent Africa? Because history 101 for you, for those that do not know. The reason that the Alkebulan continent became called by African continents because it was this Roman general called Spicius Africanus, that after he defeated Hannibal the Great, he changed the Alkebulan name that all the natives has been called for a long time, and he named Africa in honor of his names, because his name was Spicius Africanus. Don't believe me? Google. This is history 101. So the Alkebulan continent is the origin of all human beings and all people on the planet. If you trace down, has the African DNA. You don't make, oh, you crazy because I know you're talking trash. No, you Googled. You have a phone. Everybody got a goddamn phone. All you need to do is go to Google and use one of the AI centers, and they're gonna break it down to you. You don't have to believe me, but one thing that I like to do, I like to be informed. I like to be awake. Because if you stay alert, you stay alive, ladies and gents. So I will close this season 12, episode 20 finale saying that I hope you learn something from this video and start to apply it to your life so you can become a better human being and start engage and fight for what is right. Because once again, ladies and gents, death will come to everybody, la-di-da-di. And after death, it comes accountability. And there's no coming back unless Jesus decides to send Mr. Robert back to continue his testimony. That's Jesus' decision. That's not my decision. That means you may have a death after death experience that the Almighty God wants to send you back. You may not have the opportunity. So that means if you don't have the opportunity to come back and give a testimony like Mr. Robert Hill gave, and now it's going to come accountability for you, homeboy, ladies and gents. And then there's no, I'm so sorry, like, no, there's accountability, and then you go up or you're going down. So my contribution to this update is just because I don't want to say that, man, I told you so. I'm going to give you a warning to everybody. So you can watch this video, share with other people, and learn and apply the principles for this video for your own personal life to become a better human being. Because the golden rule of society, that's treat everybody like same respect and dignity that you like to be treated. If you start applying this on your life, you're going to shine the light. You pay forward the gracious and the kindness that has been put to you, and you pass to other people. So you can make your neighborhood, your street, your neighborhood, your society, your city a better city for everybody. La-di-da-di, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why I want to finish this season with a positive note, with a warning and a positive note for you to wake up. But if you don't, if you still want to live your life on your old ways, on your racist tradition, or whatever, it's on you, homeboy. So you can never say, once you're on the other side, nobody ever told me. Because I'm doing my part to enlighten everybody. All right? So, okay, ladies and so please be safe, be kind, and be blessed, and do the best what you can do with what you got. Next Saturday, ladies and gents, is going to be now, not next Saturday. Let me see the calendar here real quick. Because let me close the season right now. And on the first Saturday, where's the calendar? Calendar right here. The next Saturday is going to still be May. So there's no podcast, ladies and gents, but I will come back in June 6th. And from June 6th all the way to July 25th is going to be my summer movies reviews. I come back in August 1st for season 13, episode number 1, coming back on hot topics discussion, ladies and gents. So once again, so please be safe, be kind, and be blessed, and do the best what you can do with what you got. Salute. And I see you on the first Saturday of June. Holla!